Good afternoon and welcome to Olga's show, the show where you can get inspired, educated, and of course, get motivated by absolutely amazing people who come to my show. Today, I have an absolutely remarkable woman, a woman who is, you'll be really surprised to hear the whole entire combination of this amazing woman. She is a first-class psychology graduate. She's an award-winning blogger. She is published author, charity founder, coach, and a professional speaker, and also an absolute super mom. Please welcome to the studio our awesome Charlie Beswick. Hi, Charlie, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. I'm very excited for this.
I am so super excited because I know how inspirational you are and how motivational you are. And I must say, when I heard you speak at one of our professional speaking association meetings, I instantly had that fire inside of me thinking, oh, I need her on my show.
Yeah.
That was instant.
That's lovely to say. Thank you.
It's a pleasure that you actually came today and you are bringing some absolutely incredible content today, which I think everybody needs to hear today. But could you please tell us where from are you joining us today? Because we are having people very often from around the world listening to us. So please tell us, where are you located?
Okay, so I am North Staffordshire, which is the Midlands of the UK, of England in particular. So that's where I'm joining you from today.
Amazing, which is very local. So if we have any local people here with us today, please do let us know where you're joining us from, and especially if you're joining us from somewhere abroad, do tell us, because ideally I would like to help Charlie to spread her message about the importance of self-talk in our own life across the globe. So please make sure who's watching us today, you share this message with others so they can get inspired as well. So Charlie, going to the topic about how to change your life with your self-talk, why are we actually have to be aware of our self-talk? I mean, what difference it's gonna make, and how can we even recognize if we have any type of self-talk?
Okay, so there's two big questions there. The first one is why self-talk is important, how it affects us. So the way that we see the world, perception, is an active process. We don't just look out at the world and then just see it the way it is. We are drawing on a whole host of influences. So that might be from our upbringing, our cultural expectations, our surroundings, our own judgments and expectations, our past experiences, a real wealth of experience. And that's an active process so that our brains can make sense and make meaning of the world around us. And a huge part of that is based on the things that we say to ourselves about ourselves. And that directly influences the way that we see the world around us, the way that we're motivated towards that world, and the way that we show up and engage. So self-talk is absolutely critical to helping us to see the world around us and to shape that world and creating our own reality, because a lot of the time people feel that things happen to them and they feel a little bit trapped, particularly around this time. We're talking about COVID. So, you know, sort of the pandemic that we've been experiencing this year has left people feeling very vulnerable, very out of control. And those sorts of things, you know, we do have an element of some control, and that starts with our self-talk. So does that answer that first question?
Absolutely, Charlie. And we all know somehow heard other people talking by themselves, and we are like, "Ooh, you feel very negative about yourself." But actually, we all do that. So
Yes.
it's really, really important to be aware of that and to actually doing our best to somehow improve that. But how can we recognize that?
Okay, so self-talk rarely occurs on its own in a little vacuum. There's often other things going on. So there's lots of different types of self-talk. So there will be commentary self-talk. So that voice that says, don't forget the eggs, don't forget the milk when you're shopping. That's fine. That's not dangerous. That's not going to sort of send us down any rabbit holes.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the self-talk that's very much around, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said this. You're an idiot. You're not good enough. He's not going to call you. She's not going to like you. Those sorts of things. And often they accompany intense emotions and feelings. So when people are feeling any of the following, and this is not an exhaustive list, this is just a few examples, self-talk will be very, very close behind, sort of beside them. So if people are stressed, if people are anxious or angry, if they have got a low mood, if they are preoccupied with something, if they are super sensitive and hyper aware, if they're having sleep disturbances, if they're overthinking, and treadmill thinking is what I call ruminating. So kind of replaying things over and over again. If people are in that place, in that position, then self-talk is often there. So it's just about giving yourself the time and space to sit back and listen and pay attention to those messages that you're saying to yourself. Because most of us have done that for so long that we don't give ourselves time to actually tune into that. In the same way that, as you've just said, if we heard somebody else saying that, we'd be listening out for it and we'd be thinking, oh, you're quite negative, you know, but we can do that to ourselves as well.
Yeah.
So it's just about giving ourselves time and space to listen to that message and being aware of what's going on around us at the time.
I love that. You see, that's why I knew I have to have you. I knew you got to come to my show because your words are like music to my ears. And we all know how dangerous it can be. Phrases like, I'll never succeed.
Yeah.
Why would you say that to yourself, right? Or I'll never get lucky. I'll never get lucky, right? I'll
Yeah.
never get there. Yeah. It sounds like such a little thing, but it's not.
Yeah, no, it's huge. So
Yeah.
never is a word that people should not use. Always is a word that people should not use, because, you know, always just means, it means always. And there's going to be exceptions to that rule. Should is another real bugbear of mine. So with my clients, I talk to them about letting go of should. I should be this. I should be doing that. I should feel this way. That's loaded with expectation and judgment from other people. That's other people's expectations upon us. And so it's about letting go of the feeling of I should be something other than what I am, because actually what you are is good enough.
Oh, love that. In fact, right now you're speaking completely like right to my heart. This Sunday I made a video from my bedroom. I never do that.
Okay.
But you know, many people were asking me, Olga, how do you always end up being camera ready? How you always, you know, the way you are? And I was like, let me just really show people who real Olga is, who real Olga is, which is like Sunday, there's no live show, whatever. And I just literally made a video from my bedroom, and I spoke about those things like you are already perfect the way you are. We all want to get better, but actually these words that self-talk absolutely destroys us.
Yeah.
It destroys us from inside, and that's why you see people who are deeply unhappy.
Yeah.
You see them having lots of wrinkles, you see them having face which is like a horse face, and you think that's a horse face, right? because they are deeply unhappy, and unhappiness comes from your own self-talk.
It does.
Oh, gosh, I love that.
I think happiness and confidence are the two things that people always think, if I had more of those things, I'd be a better person, you know, or I'd be able to do more. But it's actually through the doing that we become confident, and it's through the confidence that we find happiness. And it's definitely an inside job. And that can be much easier said than done. So I'm not saying that self-talk is something that's very easy. It's like having a very negative friend that's been with you forever. You know, as much as you know they're a pain in the backside, that's all you've known. And so letting them go can feel quite scary. In the same way as, you know, challenging relationships can be, it can really challenge our sense of self to let go of those things that have defined us for so long. But it's massively important to do that if we're going to find real happiness.
That is so true. But I wonder, Charlie, how about yourself? Have you been born that way and just popped out and you were like, I'm going to talk about self-talk. I'm going to be super motivational. I'm going to be super inspirational. I'm going to be super positive all the time. Or did you have a journey?
Yes, there was definitely a journey. So I've always been a chatterbox, and I've always been somebody that likes lifting other people and making other people feel good about themselves. So my self-talk has always been around help them, cheer them up. So that's been my sort of default self-talk. But where that came unstuck for me is when I actually had twin boys 15 years ago. And one of them was born with only half his face formed. So a very rare craniofacial condition. And he was later diagnosed with severe autism. He's actually at home self-isolating today, so you may hear him shouting shortly. But at that time, so I was 26 when I had my boys, and it just completely pulled the rug from underneath me, because this person who I was at the time, whose self-talk had always been about make people proud, make people happy, this is who you are, was then plunged into, you know, you've let everybody down, you failed your son, you've caused his syndrome. So my self-talk then became very, very self-berating, very negative, very destructive. My marriage broke down when the boys were 3.5. I had a breakdown when the boys were 6. And partly actually because a lot of my self-talk as a single parent was, you should be able to still be a full-time primary school teacher, and you should be able to function on 3 hours sleep, and you need to be a carer for your boys. And it's selfish to put yourself first. You shouldn't, so my self-talk has been very negative, but it's also been very pushy. And so I wouldn't say that was negative self-talk, but it was certainly damaging self-talk. And so, yes, for me, I guess coming out of the end of that journey, a good few years ago now, I realized that self-talk had been the key to my undoing and the key to my rebuilding. And that's where my business was born, really, through experience.
Wow. So you are the person who literally walks the talk.
Yes, 100%.
I love that. This is so super motivational. And Charlie, you will be so pleased to hear that actually we are gone as far as Morocco.
Oh, amazing.
Yes, Taha joined us from Morocco, and also we have people from around the world actually. If you could put your locations, it would be great, but we have lots of people saying hello.
Morocco, hi to Rugby. I know we've got Rugby.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say Sebastian joins us from Rugby. Howard, I know, is based in Leeds because he's one of the regulars. He's very regularly watching the show.
Great.
And Magda, I think Magda, you're based in Ireland, so do let us know where you are joining us from. But yeah, that's great to see actually so many people joining from different locations. And as I said earlier, please do help us to share Charlie's message around the world, because self-talk is something what we all carry within ourselves. And as you can see, Charlie herself, she had such a journey. How many people like her we have in the world, right? How many single parents? How many of those people who, okay, they're not parents, but maybe they're having a job which is really difficult and they have very negative self-talk. So please make sure you share this message with others so actually they can get inspired. And also on Facebook, RJ Garcia joins from Texas. There we go. We are going global.
Amazing.
Love that. Love that. That's wonderful. So Charlie, what exactly helped you to hear yourself and challenge your own self-talk? So I'm sure people can learn from your own example how to hear and challenge your own self-talk.
Yeah, so hearing your own self-talk is very much about patience, and just listening with your heart open, not just your ears open. So it's giving yourself real time and permission to be vulnerable and not beat yourself up. If you're hearing things like, I can't do this, just taking it in and accepting it rather than wrestling with it or allowing it to define you for a while. That step on its own can take a little bit of time. But once you have started to pay attention to the things that you are saying about yourself to yourself, and often I will say these are statements a lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time there'll be statements such as, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I shouldn't do this, you're an idiot, nobody likes you. These sort of statements that we build into our vocabulary about ourselves. So once we're aware of those, the second step is to really challenge those with evidence. So I like to say, imagine you are in a court of law, and those things that you are saying to yourself, the prosecutor has got to, or the defense even, has got to, no, prosecutor is right. The prosecutor has got to prove that those things are correct with evidence. And that's got to be objective, hard evidence. So if my self-talk is, nobody at work likes me, or I have no friends, if that's my self-talk, then it's okay. So what is the evidence objectively, not just how I feel, objectively, that this is true? And it comes back to that always and never conversation. People never ask me out, or people never talk to me, or people always ignore me. Do they always? Is there ever an exception to that rule? Because if there is, then you've shot your theory in the foot. And what we realize is when we start to challenge our own self-talk a little bit, we become better at the skill of picking it up quicker and challenging it faster. So now, and this is a process that took me quite a while to do, but now I'm very quick at doing this. So, if I'm telling myself, let me think, for example, so I did some training on Friday. Let me just say, before the training, I was thinking, well, technology's, I don't know this technology platform, I'm going to screw it up. Then I'm like, well, I don't know the platform, but am I? Is that a fact that I'm going to actually make a mistake with this? And I have to kind of bring myself down, but it's very quick. Whereas what a lot of my clients do is They hear the negative self-talk, they take that into the situation with them, and then it's only later on hindsight that they can say, oh yeah, actually it was okay, it didn't go to, you know, it was fine in the end, but by that time they've already worked themselves up and really beat themselves up. So, you know, it's very much about hearing that self-talk, which is not a very quick and easy process for some people, and challenging that self-talk with objective evidence.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And actually, I would like to bring here one example, which I remember I heard from my client as well. She said, well, I can't find a partner in my life because there's no people my caliber in my circles.
Wow.
And that's another example of that self-talk, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, are you sure? She's like, well, yes, there's not people that caliber which I want in my environment. So, well, in that case, you will never find him. So I was like, well, I think I'm here for that. How can I find him? So, well, change your language.
Yeah. And actually, you know, and actually sometimes self-talk might be correct in that. So let's just use that situation for an example. So if your client's saying there's nobody in my existing circle that with the caliber that I'm looking for, okay, well, that might be true. So what can you do about it next?
Yes.
So now it's over to you to widen your circle, to expand your friendship circles. So, you know, and again, that then links into people feeling less passive in their own life and actually having a plan on how to move forward. So I guess for me, it's about accurate self-talk. As much as positive self-talk, it's about being really accurate, because if I'm saying I'm not very good at my job, that actually might be true. I might be able to find lots of objective evidence that I'm not very good at my job. So what does that mean? Well, that means that I might need extra training in the role. It might mean that I need extra support from my leadership team. It might mean that I need a new job altogether because it doesn't light up my passion, it doesn't inspire me to be my best. So, you know, it's about not beating ourselves up. It's about having self-compassion. I think self-compassion and self-awareness are crucial to really breaking through that self-talk barrier.
That's true. That is so true. And I know it's really interesting. Some people say, but how can I improve my self-talk if I'm in this situation? And it's almost like situation catch 22.
Yes.
Chicken or egg? Egg or chicken? What was first, right?
Yeah.
It's tricky. But you got to change it. You got to change and situation will change, right?
Yes.
Also changing situation. And you also improve your self-talk. But they go hand in hand.
They do. They do. And the self-talk, sometimes in situations, we are very limited with what we can control in a situation. But our own self-talk and our own self-belief system is the one thing we can work on, that we can control, that we can shape. And so when people say, well, how can I change my language when everything else is going wrong or everything else is out of my control? That's an unhelpful mentality. We need to switch that. So it's okay. So everything in my surroundings is maybe out of my control at the moment, but my self-talk isn't. So it's, you know, it's about really sort of taking ownership of our own self-talk.
Bingo, love that. Okay, so now we know how to recognize that, because you simply hear yourself, you notice what you're saying, and you also observe your life and you think, okay, something is not right here. Maybe I'm not speaking the right way. Okay, we got that. But then now we know what to work with. What are your ways how to improve self-talk?
Okay, so there's a couple of ways actually of improving self-talk. The first way is to talk to ourselves in third person. So this can feel quite strange for some people at some times, but there's been a lot of psychological evidence and studies that have shown that if we say things to ourselves in a positive way, so I might say, Charlie, you've got this, I'm more likely to ignore myself and say, yeah, but this could go wrong and that could go wrong. Whereas if somebody else was to say it to me, so Charlie, you're okay, you've got this, my brain almost thinks that that's coming from another source. And so third person self-talk has been shown to be really powerful in terms of motivation and getting, you know, breaking through barriers. So if you hear, I know we've got somebody here saying that they can be negative self-talk and it's hard to notice, but they try. So don't beat yourself up for talking negatively. Everybody does it. Just accept, hear it, accept it, and then switch it round. So I think it's Raquel. I hope I've said that name right. Have I said that name right? Have I pronounced her name right there?
I think so, yes.
Yeah?
So, yeah.
I hope so. So if that's the case and you're saying something negative, let's just say, I'm making this up, you're being stupid today. You're stupid. Okay, this is something people say to themselves. then the third person reply to that would be, Raquel, you're not stupid, you're fine. Or Raquel, you're not stupid, you're a clever lady. And so it's about having that internal conversation with ourselves a little bit, but in the third person. So that can then, even on a physiological level, it calms us down because it sounds like somebody else is saying it to us. So it's a tiny little thing, but it can make a massive difference. And then I think the second thing, and I know I mentioned earlier that self-talk is mainly statements, but this one's around the question of what if. So this is the big question that lots of people hold themselves back with. So, what if I catch COVID? What if I give my phone number to this guy and he doesn't ring me back? What if I go for this job and I don't get it? So we have this, and what that does then is triggers anxiety in us. It triggers the sympathetic nervous system to kind of think that we're potentially in danger. So our adrenaline starts to run. So what I say then is to flip that. So if you're asking what if questions, ask the opposite, because if there's a chance of what if going wrong, then equally there's a chance of what if going right. So if it's, well, what if I go to the supermarket and I catch COVID? Then the flip side of that is, well, what if you don't?
Yes.
What if you just go to the supermarket and you keep yourself safe and actually you're okay? And people go, oh, I didn't really think of that. Yeah, no. And what if you do go for the job and you don't get the job? But what if you go for the job and you actually get it? Or what if you don't get it, but you learn so much about yourself that that process was worth it anyway? What if you get the job and then you don't want the job? So I've actually had jobs in the past. When I go into a job interview, I go into the mentality of, I'm interviewing you as much as you're interviewing me. Good. And I've actually got jobs in the past and then turned them down because it doesn't sit well with me. So, sometimes people can smell desperation, whether that's dating or whether that's work. And so it's about just being kind to ourselves and realizing that there are different outcomes for every scenario. So, what if he or she doesn't call me back? Well, what if they do? It's just sometimes just about having that courage to put ourselves out there and be vulnerable. And I think vulnerability is a word that people associate with weakness. And I completely disagree. I think some of the strongest and most fearless people are that way because they are brave enough to be vulnerable.
I love that. I absolutely love it. And I must say, you are so, so right here. But here we actually have a very nice comment from Sebastian. I'll show it on the screen, but it won't be full, so I will be reading that.
Okay.
He says, I agree. Self-talk has helped me a lot. The only thing I still need to fix is that sometimes I use negative affirmations, something you refer to. And that indeed is not a good thing to do. And he advises to read a neurolinguistic programming book, and it is saying the same thing. Thanks for sharing your experience and advice with us.
Thank you, Sebastian, for that. Yeah. I think what I would say with that negative affirmation is, if you can almost imagine that as another person sort of saying these negative affirmations, and then you can challenge that person and just say, that doesn't serve me now. Thank you, but that doesn't serve me now. And it's about letting that go in a really compassionate way.
Yeah. But I love the tips. I think speaking to yourself from a third person, almost like having an forever advocate, forever angel who will be always supportive. No matter how long you go, he will just, or she will just turn around and will say, no, you got this. I've got your back.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll get through together. I'll hold your hand. I think that that sounds weird, actually. Yeah. Like,
it can be strange.
Yeah, exactly. But I can see how definitely that can help. And also, I suggest the second thing is to start adapting that, right? It's just, what if you actually do go through?
Yes.
So instead of what I will not, just go, what if you will? And I think that sometimes can even scare some people. Because it's easy to think, I will never get through because so far I never got through, because so far I never had a good job, because so far I never met a great girl, so far I never met a good guy. But the minute you tell people, well, what if one day you will?
Yeah.
Oh, then I don't know what to do with that.
Exactly. Some people, I think lots of people think that we fear failure and we fear, sort of unhappiness. But I would argue that we fear success and happiness more because it challenges us a little bit. Sometimes our self-belief, like you say, particularly if we think we're not worthy or we're not worth certain things, sometimes we will push people away. We'll push opportunities away to try and make sure that that narrative stays true. So it's about being aware of what we're saying about ourselves to ourselves and really challenging that.
That is very, very true. Well, I must say, Charlotte, I'm so grateful and so happy you came today to share with us.
Thanks, me too.
And especially knowing that you walk your talk, that you went from a spot of not being that person, being super negative, and actually now you became very, very positive. But what actually helps you to get through? Because right now you look after your boys. One of them is at home at self-isolation. Is it self-isolation or because I guess he's very vulnerable, that's why he has to be at school?
He's isolating just because there was a condition at school. So he's fine, but he's just here as a precaution, thankfully.
I see. Okay, yeah. But I must say, as I said, even pre-show, that I'm following you on Instagram, and I saw your journey, and I love how vulnerable you are there. Something which you already addressed. Vulnerability is not a weakness; it is a strength.
Yes.
And your openness, your honesty, your transparency really inspired me. So I would definitely suggest everybody who is actually watching us right now, please make sure you do go and you check out Charlie, because she's absolutely amazing. But
Thank you.
could you please tell us how exactly could you help people? What exactly can you do for them?
So I offer one-to-one coaching. And at the moment that's online. So that's really accessible for everybody, regardless of where they are. And then I deliver training. Again, that can be online. In the UK, it's face-to-face when we're not in lockdown and restrictions. And that's, again, very much around self-limiting beliefs, breaking through our limiting beliefs, achieving our potential, and just finding the happiness that we deserve, both personally and professionally as well. So I tend to do a lot of work in education and charity sectors. I love working with public sector workers, the people that want to make a difference for others. And as I say, the coaching one-to-one is for a whole host of different people who really recognize that they are not being their own best friend right now.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing this. And oops, press the wrong button. There we go. I completely hid myself. So what I would like to say is that people definitely should contact you, because what you offer is absolutely incredible.
Thank
Make sure whoever is watching us right now from around the world, you do contact Charlie. You do get in touch with her. You follow her, and I was sharing the details how to get in touch with you on your website. You can find more about Charlie there, LinkedIn, and also Facebook, because your journey is so inspirational and it's so motivational. So thank you so much once more for coming today to us and to actually helping us today with your inspiration, with your amazing tips. And I really appreciate you being so authentic. Please never change. Can you promise that?
Thank you. I will. I promise. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed it.
Oh, that was fabulous. That was fabulous. And what is the next new thing on your books? Is there anything exciting you're working on towards to? I know it is in the process, but what is your next big step in your life? Do you want to share with us?
Ooh, I have a couple actually. I would really like to create a membership platform for people who want to work with me, just on a bigger scale. So instead of one-to-one, we can do group coaching and things like that. So I think that will be something next year that I look into, and certainly some sort of self-help book around self-talk, just to give people some some skills even, and strategies to get out of their own way and really, help themselves.
Sounds like a plan. I love that. I'm looking forward to receive more details about this. And once you have, please do share them with me so I can share with everybody else who was watching us today.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you so much once more for coming today. It was a pleasure to have you. And everybody, please go ahead and get in touch with Charlie, because she is absolutely phenomenal, as you can tell.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And everybody who is watching us today, please make sure you share this message with the world so we can together inspire as many people around the globe as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching.